At some point, your heart must have been stirred for the prophetic. When did that happen?
Well, of course, I was like you when I first heard them prophesy. I thought, what are they saying? Where did it come from? This is awesome. Who's that person? That because the lecturer, they would have prophets coming to the Bible school, but they were very, very well-known prophets from America mostly. Bill Hammond was one of the first, and of course he came, and of course he rolls out the prophetic words, and you think, I will never meet this man. He's up there in the pulpit at the church I was in at the time. It wasn't the church I belonged to, but where the Bible school was. It was a very big church, 5,000-6,000 people. And I thought, I'll never meet this man ever. Not thinking a few years later I would, and he would prophesy over me. So it was just a real, when I heard them, I thought, this is fantastic. And there was another lady that came to our graduation at the end of the first year, Billie Jean. Billie Jean something. It wasn't the tennis player. It was a Billie Jean in the ministry. I can't remember her surname. But she prophesied at the graduation, but she prophesied over the group. And it was the first time I'd heard a group prophecy because everyone else just received personal words. So that was a new experience for me. And it was really the book. They had the most fabulous bookshop connected to this Bible school with, it was massive. It was huge. It was like a CNA, really. It was very big. And I would go in there, of course, after class would break. We'd go and browse. Of course, I found all these wonderful Bibles. I had so many Bibles in the end. Every new one that was there, I bought. And that was where I bought the Elijah Task. And all the dreams I'd had, all the scriptures the Lord had given me, everything was in this book. And he said in this book that, this is the call of the prophet. And I thought, no, it can't be. I can't actually believe that through a book. No, I missed it. And then, anyway, that was the start. And it took me about 6 months to accept that that is what the Lord wanted me to do. Because I thought, now I'm definitely not going to be like Bill Hammond, and I certainly won't be like Billie Jean. And the Lord said to me, now you've accepted it. Now you are not to tell anybody. You just have to get on with it. So I thought, well, okay, I'll just have to do that because, my husband can't give him a big shock and tell him now I'm a prophet. But what do prophets do? Because I'm not going to be like Bill Hammond and I'm not going to be like Billie Jean. So what am I going to do? But anyway, never mind what am I going to do. As a prophet, let me just see what I can do as a person who's had 2 years of Bible school. So for me, it started very, very basic, very ordinary, very, very bottom row, which I think is very important because I, of course, knew nothing when I went to Bible school. Then I had all this wonderful knowledge, but how do you use it? And that's a very important way. Now churches are very different. They involve you in all sorts of things and you learn as you go along, and we have prophetic schools and training, but there was absolutely zero in those days, zero. There was Bill Hammond coming, once a year maybe, and being a speaker at a conference, 3 or 4 times over a whole 5-day conference, and that was it. So you just learned very slowly.
So were you part of your church's ministry team at all? Was there something like that at the time, particularly for women?
Well, there was and there wasn't, because I was out of Bible school about 2 years when the pastor phoned me, the church I was in, and he said to me, I'd like to see you. So I thought, oh my word, what's he going to do? What's he going to say? What have I done? We always think that. What have I done? So, of course, off I went to the pastor, praying all the way, oh, Ramasaya, Lord, help, all the things we do when we don't know what's lying ahead. And he said to me, I want you to be head of the counseling department. And I thought, this is my worst nightmare. It's the last thing I enjoy. I don't like counseling. I don't like all people's problems, people's troubles. It's just not, I absorb too much of it. And then, of course, you give them advice and they never take it. So it's a waste of time, I thought. So I thought, well, he's asked me to do this. I better just give it a go. So I prayed, of course, fervently before the next Sunday when I had to take care of the counselling department, because, those days, I mean, it is long ago, 1985, 86, maybe 88, maybe even 90. They always had altar calls. Every service there was an altar call. Is there anybody with a sickness? Is there anybody, and they'd have words of knowledge in the church, and the gifts would flow through the pastors and the leaders. So there were always people that got born again, so they needed to receive ministry. There were people that needed healing. There were people that needed counseling. There were all sorts of things. Now, I was in charge of this department. But, of course, there was no department. Every time the pastor would say, who would like to help? So he wanted me, without telling me, to almost pioneer department. So that was one of my first actual pioneering jobs. And what I decided to do was talk to all the people and go and see who will be on the counseling team. Because then all I have to do is organize the team, and I don't have to actually counsel. So I had my little clipboard every Sunday, and at the end of the meeting, I would tell all these people, I would message them before, let them know. Okay, there was no email, WhatsApp, none of that those days, but I would tell them, now you're on the counseling team. And I would also have training sessions for the counseling team. I would bring in gay people and ask them to talk about being gay, being homosexual, so that the counselors would know how to handle that. I would ask people that were drug addicts to come in and speak about drugs. I would ask people to come and talk about their marriage, all sorts of people that I knew about that subject. So I trained them in the week, and then on the weekend we'd have this group of people that now, of course, they loved the training. So I realized now I'm getting the right speakers for the right event. I'm sort of connecting the dots without realizing it, and doing all this counseling of all these hundreds of people, and I'm not doing any of it. All I'm doing is organizing, which is where my gifts are. My gift is organizing. And of course, all the years, by this time I was married about 15, 18 years. And all these years, my husband used to say to me, stop being so bossy. Stop telling me what to do. So I thought I was bossy. But actually, I was an organizer. And my gift was unnoticed in my own home. What a shame. But so I wasn't bossy. I was being an organizer. And that's what I used to do. I used to organize the right people with the right counselor. And I found that out because afterwards the counselors would say to me, I had the most wonderful session with that woman. Everything I've been through in my life, she's been through. And I was able to counsel her. The same with the men. I would get feedback from everybody. So I've always done that, Elaine, and I do that too. Give me feedback. I want to know, because people are excited about their adventures and the things that they've been through and the things that have happened. They want to share. They don't want to just go home with their wonderful testimony. They want to share it with someone. So I've always learned to do that. And that started all those years ago in that little church. It was actually in what's now called Centurion, and a lovely pastor that really flowed in the gift so beautifully. It was a pleasure to be in the church.
How did the Prophets Round Table get started?
So that was one of the things the Lord told me to start. He told me to get the prophets together and have a round table. So my husband at the time had a hotel, and he had a nice venue he'd built on there for us that we used. And I invited a lot of prophets to come, and some people from my team, that I had at the time. I forget where they were, but I had quite a group of people. I had about 25, 30 people came. But I got so many rejections. Sorry, I can't be there. Sorry, I'm not going to do it. I don't feel it's right for me. I'm not coming. So all the prophets I invited didn't come. And I was so disappointed. I thought, don't they want to come and hear what, God's saying to all the prophets? Shouldn't we be comparing notes? Shouldn't we be talking to one another? But what I believe the Holy Spirit showed me is they were all so busy with their own ministry that they weren't thinking about other prophets. So that's fine. But how do you, everybody had their little, newspaper with their prophetic words in, and everybody had their vision, and people were forever coming to me and saying, I got this word for South Africa. What does I do with it? So then I got them all together. I said, now this is the agenda. We're going to pray for the country and we're going to hear what God says. And funny enough, Wally de Bruin was one of the people that came. He was on my team at the time. And we got together and we, waited on the Lord. And people, one or two people came. Lady Betsy came from Polokwane. Was so grateful to see her. And I forget who else. It was someone from Centurion. But mostly it was just my team. So the real prophets that were out there doing prophesying and, prophesying from the pulpit, they weren't there. And I thought, how am I going to do this? So I had the round table, I think once a year for 3 or 4 years. And it was very poorly attended, except by me and my group. So I thought, well, why am I bothering with this? And then Wally said to me, I'll design a website and we'll put all these prophetic words on the website. So we got the website up and running and we started to put the words from that group onto the website. And then that also didn't work out. So I said to Wally, no, I'm not doing this. I was extremely busy with ministry. This is an extra headache. It doesn't look like anybody's that keen. So why am I doing this? Why bother? So I said, I'm shutting it down. So I shut it down for about 3 or 4 years. And then Andres approached me. Andres van Heerden. He said to me, we've got to start it up again. So I said, well, you can do it. He said, no. The Lord said you must do it. So, of course, I went and prayed and I said, oh, all right, we will do it. So then I got the group together of prophets and we started. I think I even sent you one picture of the first group of prophets that came together. We came together and we prophesied and we put it on Wally's website. And then we got together again the next year and we prophesied and the words came to pass. And everybody that was on that grouping, they were so sincere and they were so earnest about hearing the Lord. The words were so good that we'd all put them on this website that Wally designed, the Prophets Roundtable website. So that evolved for a few years. Then in 2014, I'll send you a photo of the 2014 book and the latest 2025. Then you can probably put it up now. So in 2014, actually 2013, Andre said, people are asking me for a book. He said, we can't just keep putting this on the website. People have got to scroll to look for their prophetic words. Everybody doesn't have access to internet those days. Remember 2014, you had to buy your data and it was very expensive. And if you worked for a company that had data or, you had an office, you were able to do it. Otherwise, you just never had internet. You had bought a few, gigs on your or megs on your cell phone, and that was it. And you went to communal Wi-Fi. And he said, people just haven't got access to this like that like. And he says, I keep hearing from people, write a book. So we decided we're going to do the book. And from 2014, we've been getting the book together, and we started, I think before that, 2010, coming together and doing the round table and, all the prophets coming together. And of course, then there's prophets that leave. I've never held on to anybody. I've always thought we're working with volunteers. You can let them go. The Lord changes their vision, changes their heart. You know, you can't, my heart keeps changing. Surely theirs does too, you know. So, you know, you've always got to be ready for people leaving you. And it's always sad when they say, oh, I don't feel I want to be part of this anymore. And, you know, I feel like my time's up. You know, is it up? Isn't it? I can't say. If you say it is, then that's it. You're always welcome to come back. So I never held on to people. But as people left, we invited new people on. But everybody that's on the round table is invited to be on the round table. It's not a random free for all, because we have a lot of people that read the book. We know the book just flies by other folk. It's an intercession manual, really. It's information on your nation, which is very important. If you're a businessman, you want to read about business. One of our prophets always was on media. She always prophesied over media, so it was always important to have that. Elaine, you in media now, but you don't just stick to media. You prophesy over so many things in the God Said book, and we're grateful to have you as part, even though you live in another country. We normally meet together in the flesh. But because Elaine was on the round table, you know, for many years before she left, you know, we know her heart, we know her spirit. She knows how we operate, how we prophesy. So we allow the Zoom for Elaine and for Gugu, who struggles to get onto the Zoom because of where she is and the data, signal where she is. I think she's in a rural area. And who else? We had someone else that was new. Willeen, we had, yeah.
Yes, we had Willeen this year as well.
You knew her and you recommended her. So, and she actually flew from where she lives to where you are so that you could be together. So you see, it's very, very important to have personal contact. We know Zoom is wonderful, and we know cell phones are fantastic, and email has revolutionized everybody's life. But there's nothing like physically being there. Physically sitting with people, hearing their heart, getting the feedback in between, and just knowing what they want to say to you. It's just very powerful. So we don't want to ever lose that personal interaction.